Waiter who insulted Big Shaq didn't know he owned a restaurant. The clinking of glasses echoed inside the luxury restaurant, where every table seemed filled with polished laughter and expensive perfume. But when a towering man with dark skin and a simple hoodie walked to the golden doors, the atmosphere shifted. Whispers snaked through the dining room, and then came the chuckle of a young waiter who didn't even bother to hide his disdain. "Sir," the waiter smirked loudly enough for a few customers to hear, "this isn't a place for casual drop-ins. You might be more comfortable across the street at the Burger Shack." Gasps scattered across the room. Everyone froze, watching the enormous man, Big Shaq. His broad shoulders stiffened, his jaw tightened, but his eyes stayed calm, unreadable. What no one knew, not even the arrogant waiter, was that Big Shaq wasn't just another customer. He was the silent owner of this very restaurant, and the young man who mocked him so easily had just set fire to his future. Shaquille, or Big Shaq as most knew him, wasn't new to humiliation. Growing up, he'd been laughed at for his size, his accent, and his skin. Born in a struggling neighborhood, raised by a single mother who worked 2 cleaning jobs, Shaq had learned early on that respect wasn't freely given people who looked like him. It had to be earned, demanded, or quietly built over years of patience. Through discipline and an unbreakable will, he had risen from those narrow streets into something extraordinary. He became not only a towering athlete, known for his skills and fame, but also a businessman. Unlike many who spent fortunes as quickly as they earned them, Shaq invested. Real estate, small companies, restaurants. He believed in creating opportunities where people like his mother might one day be treated with dignity instead of dismissal. The restaurant in question was one of his proudest projects. Situated in a wealthy district, it was meant to symbolize something powerful, a space where everyone could dine, regardless of background. But he had chosen to remain a silent owner, preferring to let managers and staff run the show. He wanted to observe, to see whether the values he had in mind were actually lived out by those representing his brand. That evening, Shaq had entered not as a celebrity, not as a businessman, but simply as a man craving a meal. He wore a hoodie and jeans, deliberately casual. He wanted to see how the staff treated someone they assumed to be ordinary. What he encountered instead was a test he hadn't expected. The waiter, named Brian, was young, ambitious, but arrogant, raised in privilege. Brian had little patience for people he thought didn't fit into his world. To him, serving was temporary, a stepping stone until his career really took off. And so, when he saw Shaq, tall and imposing yet dressed simply, Brian assumed, poor, out of place, undeserving of respect. Other customers noticed. Some smirked, some looked away. Prejudice, after all, doesn't always with a mask of violence. It often comes dressed in casual laughter, in a smile that cuts sharper than a knife. What Brian didn't know was that his moment of mockery was being silently recorded, not just by phones in the room, but in the memory of someone who would decide his fate within hours. The night stretched on, each minute growing heavier. Shaq chose not to storm out, not to reveal himself yet. Instead, he asked politely for a table. Brian hesitated, sneered, and deliberately led him to the smallest, farthest table in the corner, near the kitchen doors, where staff bustled and the clatter of dishes drowned out polite conversation. Shaq sat without protest. But inside, the storm was brewing. He ordered, only to have Brian roll his eyes. When Shaq requested water, it arrived late. His food was delayed, while others who had come after him were served first. And when the plate finally came, it was cold. Customers nearby watched, some curious, some uneasy, but no one intervened. This wasn't just bad service. It was humiliation layered with subtle racism, the kind that cuts deeper because it hides behind excuses. Shaq, however, stayed calm. He wasn't just enduring, he was observing. In the back, other staff whispered. Some disliked Brian's behavior, but feared speaking up. After all, he had charmed the restaurant manager, often pretending to be the most hard-working server. His arrogance was hidden beneath a mask of politeness to authority, cruelty reserved only for those he considered less than. But Shaq had seen enough. Quietly, he stepped out of the restaurant before dessert. No anger shown, no voice raised. Just a calm, heavy silence that promised something was coming. And indeed it was. The very next morning, The staff assembled for their usual pre-shift briefing. Brian strolled in confidently, expecting another day of easy charm and hidden cruelty. But as the meeting began, the atmosphere was different. At the center stood Shaq, not in his hoodie now, but in a tailored suit. His presence filled the room, not just with his physical size, but with authority. Whispers erupted among the staff. Some gasped, realizing who he truly was. Brian blinked in shock, his smirk fading. "Wait, you—" "Yes." Shaq's voice was deep calm, but carried the weight of thunder. "I own this restaurant." The silence was suffocating. Every staff member looked from Shaq to Brian, piecing together the humiliation from the night before. Shaq let the moment linger before speaking again. "Yesterday, I came here as a customer. I was treated with disrespect, not because of slow service, but because of assumptions, because someone believed my appearance meant I wasn't worthy of dignity." His gaze locked onto Brian, who now stood pale, trembling. "This restaurant was built to be different," Shaq continued. "To welcome every guest with respect, no matter how they look, where they come from, or what they wear. That is the foundation. And anyone who cannot uphold that—" He paused, the room silent enough to hear hearts beating. "Has no place here." Brian's career ended that day, not with a shout, but with the quiet finality of truth. In the weeks that followed, the restaurant changed. Training was enforced, not just in service, but in humanity. Every staff member was reminded, people don't walk in carrying price tags on their clothes. They carry stories, dignity, pain, pride. Word spread about the incident, not because Shaq publicized it, but because customers who witnessed it shared their shock online. The video clips, the whispers, the testimonies, it all went viral. And suddenly, what had been one man's humiliation turned into a global lesson. Brian's name faded quickly, but the lesson remained. The staff grew tighter, more supportive, and the restaurant flourished. Shaq visited often, not to check on them, but to show presence, to prove that ownership meant accountability. In interviews later, when asked why he didn't simply reveal his identity in the moment, Shaq's answer was simple: "Because I wanted to see what happens when the mask of power slips." Respect isn't about who you think someone is. It's about who they are without titles, without fame, without wealth. And perhaps the most powerful truth of all, the moment a person laughs at another's dignity, they laugh at their own future. So, the question remains, if someone walked into your world today, carrying nothing but themselves, would you treat them with kindness? Or would you laugh, not knowing they hold the keys to everything you value?